everybody. Good evening. It is Wednesday, 23rd of April, 2025, and it's time for our spiritual light. So it's 9 p.m. here in Ireland. So it is with great honor we have Munir with us today.
Thank you.
And as we
It is with great
we
honor
agreed,
we have Munir with us.
uh, we will dedicate each week to a book from Kardec. And today it is the heaven. Oh my gosh,
Heaven and
heaven
hell.
and hell, heaven and hell
Heaven
book.
and hell.
Yeah, and our topic it is life after death, justice, consolation, and spiritual progress. So uh, I hope you are okay. Just recap, like the first one was the Spirit's book. Last week was the Gospel according to Spiritism. Now is heaven and hell. So I want to say good evening to Munir. How are you, my friend?
Hello, Stevan. I'm fine, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here again. Hello, Charles and Silvia. It's always very nice to be here in the studio with you for Spiritual Light. And the topic today is the book Heaven and Hell by Allan Kardec. This wonderful book. I also want to say hello to all those watching us. It is a pleasure to share a bit of the knowledge we have about the book and bring to you all. And we expect that you all get very interested in this wonderful book.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Miss Gibbons. How are you, my dear?
Good evening, Stevan, Munir, Charles. Nice to be with you all again. I'm very well, thank you, and hope everyone is well. Like you said, we're going to study heaven and hell, which is a very interesting theme because I think a lot of people are very always concerned, and I think that a lot of fear of death and a lot of people who don't like to talk about it because there is that kind of thing, hell. So with the explanations that we have today from the book and the teachings of Spiritism, I hope it will clarify for a lot of people that it's nothing to fear and it's quite logical. So welcome everyone, and we're going to have a really nice meeting today.
Great. Bonsoir, Charles.
So, Steven, hello. Munir, happy to be here. Very happy to have you again today. And hello also to Silvia. Hello to everyone. Yeah, I mean, it's a good topic, isn't it? Huh? This book is one of the, I would say, out of the 5 books of Kardec, is one of the, which is the less read. But it's a pity because it's really an excellent book. So we will enter into details, and hopefully we will give you the will to read it or to read it again, because it's a very, very, very good book.
Great. So first things first, let's start. And I think I need to start for the usual question we do have. And Charles, I ask you to help me with these comments here, but what Spiritism understands by the heaven and hell? Does it exist?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was Munir. But okay. Yeah, no, it does not exist as an absolute definition. So there is no special place which is called heaven, and there is also no special place which is called hell. Heaven and hell are images. Images. When something goes wrong, even in the current language, we say, it's a hell here, it's a hell in here or whatsoever. So that is exactly the definition of hell. Hell is when something is going wrong and so on. But a hell which is governed by the devil also does not exist according to the Spiritist teaching, and Kardec explained very well with absolutely extremely strong arguments why the devil cannot exist as per the definition given by the traditional religions, mostly the Christian ones. But again, here we call when we have a person which is really very bad, doing violent and so on, we use in the common language, it's a devil, huh? Or a child which is unsupportable or whatever. It's a way to say. So the hell does not exist, and the heaven as well does not exist. Heaven is also an image. Oh, here when we are at a very good place with good vibrations, nice sun, beach, whatever, we say it's a heaven here. So that's exactly the image of the heaven. But special place, particular place called heaven, also does not exist. Okay, so that's just to introduce the definitions, the statement given by the Spiritist body of knowledge.
Okay. Munir, your inputs. You want to
Yeah.
go to the hell or to the heaven?
Oh, to heaven, of course, but heaven will come to me. Not that I will go to heaven. You know. It's interesting for those who have never browsed through this book. It is divided into two parts, and first part one, Kardec just explains. You know, he also put the Spiritist arguments in relation to hell, heaven, purgatory, demons, angels, and so on and so forth. Because what we know here in the West is based on first Judaism. So the church took a lot from Judaism, but also from other religions. And the idea of hell and heaven, and it was something that, you know, came from, you know, ancient times, but never had a strong rational argument to support it or to deny it. And Kardec does that beautifully in part one of the book. But what amazes me most in this book is part two, where we have examples. When we know that spirits suffer according to their deeds. And we know what kind of suffering. Are we all suffer the same thing if we are all spirits at the same level? And we see that no, each case is a particular case. So it's beautiful because we know, you know, the medium's book, as Charles said, medium's book, the gospel, and the spirit's book, you know, normally we know them reasonably well, but heaven and hell is basically giving us examples, practical examples of the reality of all of us spirits when we return to the spiritual world, based on everything that we get to learn from spirits in these three books: Gospel, Spirit's book, and the Medium's book. So it is a fantastic book. And as Charles said, Kardec shows us that there's no such a thing as a circumscribed place called hell, another one called heaven, and an intermediary one called purgatory. That heaven, hell, purgatory, suffering, happiness is all inside us. And according to how we feel, the hell or the heaven that we cultivate inside us, then we'll get together with other spirits in a similar condition, and then the environment where we are will be a happy one. It's like getting together when we are well. We go and meet people who are well as well. It's a very enjoyable time that we have. But when we are not well and meet people who are in a similar way that we are, then we say, well, we are all together in hell. So it's not a circumscribed place where you give, you know, point at a map and say, this is the place where the coordinates for hell and this one's the coordinates for heaven. But, you know, it is a state, an inner state of each one of us.
Good, good. Thank you, Munir. And you, my dear Gibbons. I just say I want to go wherever you want to go, but do you want to go to hell or to heaven?
I can't unmute. Hello, sorry. Control D, Control D. Hello, can you hear me now? I couldn't
Yes, yeah.
unmute myself. Well, I am going to go to heaven because I'm trying to create all the circumstances that will allow me to live in a better place. I think how, as it was explained, a circumscribed space as such, but we go after our lives on this earth, when our physical bodies die, we go to the places that we are in tune with, actually. If we have had a life of reasonable peace, not harming anyone, trying to do our work, being kind when we can, and helping people, there is no reason for us to go to a suffering space. But if we had a bad life, we are going to go with people who are like us or worse than us. And I think that that's the important thing, because we will go to wherever we are in tune with, whatever vibrates in the same level that we vibrate. So that, we don't really know where we go, but if we have a good life, as I said, then you go to a good place. That's the thing, because I think it's very interesting. In the first book of the collection, In the Spiritual World of the Spirit André Luiz, through the medium Chico Xavier, by automatic writing, he says that when we die, when a physical body dies, because we don't die, a spirit lives on, we face the mirror of our conscience. And there we're going to see everything we've done, good or bad. So we are responsible for ourselves. And I think one of the things as well in talking about hell, and this idea is that God will punish you. You're going to be sent to an eternal damnation, no chance of redemption. And I think that's what brings a lot of fear in a lot of people. Whereas in spiritism, it's completely different. If we had a really bad life, we're responsible to causing a lot of suffering to others. We'll have to, because we live a life of whatever we do, we get back, So if we have a life that was good, we will look in the mirror, of a conscience, and a conscience is actually who is going to tell us which way do we go? We go to the dark places, or nothing is not circumscribed. I think this first book really explains well, and the book as well, Heaven and Hell. It's a place. It's not this place. Go to that hell, or because it's in that place. And we punish ourselves for what we've done. And we can be very rebellious in the spiritual world, and, we don't accept that. But then I think, basically, I'm mudding on a lot, but I think basically what we do, we make our choices, don't we? We go to the places that we choose to go to. God does not tell you, go there and you're going to suffer eternally. Never be able to say, to come out of that. And I think one of the most wonderful things that you learn in the Spiritist teachings is that there is redemption. God is forgiving, and we will be a better person. And I think there is a question in this first book. They say that Kardec asked, but everyone is going to be purified and a good spirit. And he said, it's your destiny. So some of us take longer than others, but we were born, we are children of God, and we're going around, a little bit. So I think we are going to heaven.
Okay, I'm happy now. Okay, good. We go to the heaven. Yeah, I agree. The good news is everybody gonna reach the that state. Everyone. I don't matter if it's doing good or doing bad. Some, of course, will reach earlier than the others, but the good message is everyone will reach that level. And it is good for us to correlate, and perhaps Munir can help us, because reaching earlier or not, it all depends on the famous law of cause and effect. So how this influence in us reaching that state soon or later.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now my screen froze for a second. Yes, Stevan, everything moves according to this law of cause and effect. And the first thing that, we realize after reading the book, Heaven and Hell, is that although Kardec uses in all the spiritist books, you see God punishes, punishment, divine justice. He used those words because he could be better understood if he used the same words to describe a different situation, Then we realize that there isn't such a thing as God's punishment, or there isn't anyone punishing, especially in part 2 of the book Heaven and Hell, where the spirits, they tell about that situation in the spirit world. Some of them are suffering tremendously alone, totally alone. There's no one there to inflict any kind of punishment. They are inflicting upon themselves, as a result, the effects of some cause. I'll give an example. There was this spirit. He'd been for about 200 years in the same place, in the house where he murdered many people. And he was seeing all of them, their faces in front of him all the time. And he could, no matter where he went, he wouldn't meet anyone, but see their faces in front of him. Not that those spirits were there in front of him, but in his mind, he was punishing himself by seeing their faces, looking at him, and that was a kind of accusation. So you see, the effect of what he did was that. But why is that? Who, is inflicting this kind of punishment? He shows a new state. He has an illness in the soul. So he needs medication for that. The effect is the medication according to the cause. The more illnesses we present, the more medication we need to take. Some of them are very bitter. Some of them are taken for a long time. It's the same in spiritual terms. We can delay our progress. We can delay this heavenly state, inner state in us by making many mistakes. But of course, we learn from our mistakes. And the quicker we, as good students, are usually compared to students, we dedicate ourselves to learning the lessons, the better, But those who get, against God, they deny God, they insist on doing what is against divine laws, they keep on creating problems from themselves. So many causes, many effects. They'll take longer, of course, to get rid of those effects, those illnesses of the soul, and delay these heaven, that one day will be inside, each one of us, a heavenly estate. And of course, according to that, we can reach places where, we'll meet spirits who are in a similar condition to ours.
Okay. Yeah. Charles, what's the role of heteronomy here? You know me, Charles.
Yeah, that's a good point. Basically, how was it in the traditional religions? You have to do what I say, what is written there, what the Pope said, or whatsoever. Otherwise, you will go to heaven, to hell. Hell was an instrument to make the people to be afraid, in order to manipulate them, in order having them obeying to what you ask them to do. Amongst others, give a little bit money to the church or stuff like that. This time is over. This worked until some centuries ago. It's still working today for some people, but less and less. So this is typically the heteronomy. As a spiritist body of knowledge, we often told you that this, for instance, suicide is not good, or we say if you want to be happy, you have to do good. If you do evil, you will suffer the consequences later on. On what do we, and Kardec, of course, base what is the basis which enables us to tell you such type of things? It's exactly the second part of the heaven and hell. Ask to the spirit. Okay, suicide is not good. Okay, let's ask to spirits who committed suicide. And there are a couple of cases of spirits who committed suicide, who came, communicated with Kardec, and told them what happened after they committed suicide. So they came themselves in order to explain and to describe all what happened to them. And guess what? All of them agree that I should not have done that. It was a very difficult situation when I was alive. But after committing suicide, it was even worse in the spiritual world. It's hard to say this, but the people who did it came themselves to tell us this. On another hand, we have also some people, some spirits which are in a good condition after the death. Okay, guy, what did you do to be so good after you died? But I did good. I was humble. I was not attached to the material things. I made all the good I could. Helped poor people who now are helping me, and so on. So they come themselves to tell us what is the positive consequences of having had good actions during their life. You see, so it's somehow it's not a statement like this coming from a book or from the Pope or whoever heteronomically. The people themselves come and tell it to us, so we can understand, we can see by ourselves, okay, through these communications, the different situations, the different cases, and understand the reason why they are in a good or a better or a worse situation, one of the other. So this gives us the arguments to understand and then to take our own decision autonomously, isn't it? Okay, what do I want? What shall I do? What shall I avoid to do? And this is, I mean, the fact to know that the life continues after death, and the fact to have more details about what happens, not simply saying you do what I want, what I ask you to do, and you go to heaven. If you don't do it, you go to hell. This is not an explanation. I mean, people believed in that centuries ago when they did not think about or did not reflect. But nowadays, more and more people, they just don't accept such statements without evidences. And Kardec in this book is bringing evidences. And that's why the book has two parts. The first part is explaining with arguments, do we have a future, or is there the nothingness after death? And he's treating this point philosophically. Then he's also a full section saying, why do people fear the death? The people fear what they don't know. And here the death is explained. So there is no reason anymore to fear the death. Or if we have a good conscience, of course, if we have bad conscience, it's still time to make such that we can get a better conscience, to repair the bad things we have done starting now without waiting. And this will, by this law of cause and effect, determine what we will be once we are going back to the other side. He's also explaining the sky and the heaven and hell. Where does it come from? Why is it not existing like this? And so on. Why is the devil not existing? Purgatory, what is a purgatory? Purgatory is here on earth. Particularly when we suffer. Purgatory is also illustrated in No Solar movie. When at the beginning, when André Louis, after passing away, stayed in a complicated place, which can be compared either to hell, if you don't have the vision that one day you will come out of it, or purgatory, if you have the vision that one day you will come out of it. So he's explaining all this with very strong arguments. And what is interesting is, at that time, after publishing the Gospel according to Spiritism, the church started really to say, hey, we cannot let this guy do. Let's see what we can do against him to shut him down. They could not imprison him and put him to burn on a, how do you say that?
Bonfire.
Together, on a fire.
Bonfire.
That was not possible anymore in the midst of the 19th century. Otherwise, the poor Kardec may have been burned as well, as many others a few times before him. But they infiltrated themselves, some Jesuits, in the Parisian Society of Spiritist Researchers. And when Kardec published The Heaven and Hell, the first one who bought him were the Jesuits, looking desperately for arguments to answer him. And they did not find arguments. There was no clear answer. The only answer from the church against Spiritism is, it's thing from the devil. Okay, but Kardec is explaining the devil does not exist, So that's the only answer they are capable to do in front of the strong argumentation that Kardec brought in this first part of the book, which is then supported by the evidences, which is explaining in the second part of the book. And it's really very interesting. I have been educated Catholic, so I read the Spiritist book, I read the Medium's book, I read the Gospel according to Spiritism, but it is the Heaven and Hell first section who really, how can I say it? You have a hard drive which is formatted, and reformat the hard drive, removing all these things that makes no sense, in order to give you freedom, and it's not a highway to hell, because it's a highway to the autonomy, And this book helped me a lot to understand what makes sense, what makes not sense in all these things that I heard during the first 20 years of my life. So I really, it's an excellent book. I advise to everyone to read it. And amongst the section also, there is one section dedicated to the prohibition of Moses to call the spirits, because sometimes there are, Jehovah Witnesses knocking on the doors here and there. Very nice people. I
Mhm.
have absolutely nothing against them. But when they start talking to me, I ask, okay, you are Jehovah Witness. Please don't lose your time with me because I'm spiritist. So you better make use of your time towards other people who may be more open to what you are saying to them than me. And then, Fred spiritist. Once they went away, and a couple of minutes later, they came knocking on the door again. Hey, do you know that Moses prohibited and so on? Because they have some handbooks where it's written spiritism. This is what you have to tell them and to whatsoever, And so again, luckily, Kardec wrote a full section about this prohibition of Moses in order to make this clear in our heads, and to be really calm with security that we are able to answer this. And another section that I like much is coming with a lot of people questioning is the first chapter of the second part of the book, which is called, let me see how it is called in English.
The passage.
The passage, yes, the passage. What happens at the moment you are dying? And it's absolutely outstanding and very very interesting, and also based on the evidences that the spirits are giving themselves through the communications which are listed in the second part. So that's it. It's a book which is really making us understand that the time of heteronomy is finished, and now we have to enter in the time of autonomy. It's a game changer, a disruption. There is no way to go back. The evolution comes, like the rivers flows always downwards. You have no way to secure that more time, and these books helps us a lot in this step.
If you allow me, it's we could even say that it is a guide to die well. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a guide to live well,
Yes.
to avoid problems when dying.
Yeah.
Because it's not about dying, it's about
Actually,
living.
sorry.
Huh? Go on, Silvia.
I think it's more like a guide to live well. It's more like a guide to live well, because we die the way we live, don't we?
Yeah.
So I think this is very important. Like Charles was saying, you read this book, it's just like, when you first read, you think, could it be possible? Could it be that easy? Because I was brought up as a Catholic, so although I used to ask so many questions that I drove everybody crazy, but it's so, because I think one of the things that used to intrigue me more than anything, and I went to catechism and that kind of thing, first communion and stuff. I couldn't understand how God, who's supposed to be good, supposed to be a father, supposed to be all love, would send you to hell. I could not understand that, and I kept asking how, why, what can I do? And some of the things actually that send you to hell is so banal, thinking about it. And I also think that if you truly believe that if you do something really bad and you are going to be sent to a place with no redemption, so you don't care. You start committing, it doesn't matter if you commit 100, 1,000,000 or one, it's all the same, so in a way it's almost like it stimulates people to do bad, because I'm doomed anyway, so I think this is very interesting, that no, your own conscience, ask of you what you've done. And I think one point as well that Charles was making, which I thought was very interesting, is about the devil. You know, how we do whatever we do, and so the devil made me do it, because we never take responsibility for ourselves. And I think one of the things that you do learn, I mean, with the whole of the spiritist teachings anyway, but with this book particularly, is the fact that we are responsible for our own actions.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter. We know that there are spirits who are not very happy and they want to influence us to do bad,
Yeah.
and they, inspire us to do that. But they only inspire us if we allow it. If we have a positive outlook in life, if we do the best we can, if we are able to forgive, don't harbor any rancor or hate against anyone, and if we try to have a clean life, those spirits will not come and tempt us to do any harm, because they don't vibrate in the same level. So if we are being influenced a lot by negativity, it's because we open our doors to them. And I think that's another thing as well, the spiritism and this book teaches us, that we need to, to vibrate in a different level from all the negativity. And and only we ourselves are responsible for our actions. It would be nice actually to think, oh, the devil is that he made me do it. It's his responsibility, isn't it? Whereas with the spiritism, no, I've done something bad. I have to answer for it. I'm responsible. How can I do something different, to not to undo what I've done, but to correct it, to make it better, to do as much good as I can, to compensate the harm that I've done in the past. And I think this is so wonderful and it's so refreshing. All this punishment, when devils tempting you and all that, can be extremely frightening. And I think, we see quite in quite of the Andrea Luis books, and I was saying that the collection of the life in the spiritual world, how many people at the moment of their death, how they suffer because they are afraid of what's going to happen to them, because they feel they haven't done all the good they could do. And that's something, isn't it, that this book, Heavenly Hope, teaches us.
Yeah, it is important, because at the same time giving us accountability of our actions. The bill will come someday, perhaps not immediately, not next day, not next month, but the bill will come. And it's important for us to start to be responsible for our actions. It's easy to say, God hates me, God's doing this, God's punishing me, God's this, God that. And I agree with you, Silvia. If God is love, if God is all those wonderful things, why He's punishing me? And it makes us to point the fingers to ourselves. And I believe when we start to realize that I'm pointing fingers to myself, the spiritist philosophy kind not fits me anymore, and people start to leave. So we when we change the role, or and when we understand that we are not the victim, we perhaps the bad guy in this story here. Things start to change. And this is, in my personal opinion, why Spiritism is not like well known because all this. That's my humble opinion. And talking about it, Silvia, what happens to the soul once we die? Okay, we close our eyes now. What's gonna happen to me?
That's a good question, isn't it? Well, I think first of all that is something that needs to be explained. There is a difference between dying and discarnating, isn't it? Because you die, and the
Yeah.
process of discarnation, of disconnecting the spirit from the body, is quite a process that comes from your feet up until it goes through your brain and your spirit releases the soul, and the body then is completely dead. And also we know that there are spirits there who are responsible to take care of the spirit and the body, and they come and they take the rest of the what was left from the vital fluid that we have in the body, and this will go into the universe, and our body deteriorates and very, very quickly, and it's transformed as well into other things. But the spirit, like we have been saying, will go where the person is prepared to go. For some people who may accept that you die and that's it, it's finished. And I always find this a little fascinating, actually, because we have been in this planet and others, for sure. For a long time, we have died and have reincarnated many times, but some people seem to block that knowledge, and they feel, no, it's finished, you die, and it's the end of it. Some people cannot accept even that they are dead, so their spirit will walk around, go to their homes sometimes, go out in the streets. There are a lot of spirits, errant spirits that are around because they don't know. The ones usually, but mostly, we find our families, members of our families and friends that we have in this life or that we have in other lives. They will come to meet us, to bring us, back, welcome us back, because actually we are spirits, and when we are incarnated, it's very difficult for us sometimes to understand that we are not physical beings, we are spiritual beings, and we are going to go back home. So we have friends from other lives, from the spiritual world, family that we had in this life, friends who have already returned, and they will come to welcome us back. So, these are the ones who are very fortunate to be able to see their families and friends when they return. And but if you have a little bit of spiritual knowledge, you are able to let go of matter, let go and go into the spiritual world with more ease than others. Some other spirits as well, as we were saying, they will be full of darkness, full of anger, full of hatred, vengeance, and they will meet this kind of people there. So they go to places which is quite dark. I think Munir or Charles already explained this before, previously, when they were talking. So we go to the places where we are, or where our mind is, where our thoughts are, where our heart is. it's interesting, like Jesus said something, you go the treasure of your heart, you go where the treasure of your heart is. And that's what it happens in the spiritual world. And some people will remember things they've done that were not so good, that were bad, and they will keep remembering that. So I think there's as many explanations as there are human beings, isn't it, Charles? Munir? Because each one of us have our own destiny, there are many things that are similar, but wherever we go, it's our own choice. And I think that's one of the things that I find very important and really, for me, wonderful in Spiritism. That is, nothing is written in stone. Everything, every single person is judged by their own measure, and no one is compared. Oh, this person did this, so you go there with them. No, we ourselves. And you use actually an expression you said before about the bill will come. So it reminds me a bit of using the credit cards. Isn't it? You go, especially when you go on holiday, you see this very expensive restaurant. I say, oh, lovely, I think I'm going to try this restaurant. Very posh, very nice. And you pay with the credit card, and then when you come back home, you have to pay all those huge bills. And I think that, this kind of vision is very similar to what happened in the spiritual world. But I find something very interesting in the Spirit's book, when Kardec talks about, he asks the Spirit about the purgatory. He said, what is to be understood by purgatory? And the answer from the Spirit's world: physical and moral suffering, the period of expiation. And then he says, it is almost always upon the earth that are made by God to undergo your purgatory and expiate your wrongdoing. I find it very interesting because mostly it's here on earth, the purgatory.
Mm-hmm.
And I find this fascinating. And this scene really reminds me of, the Divine Comedy, when Dante goes into to hell. And at the door, that's always reminded me, because that was so powerful. First time I read that, I thought, oh my God, and it says, leave all hope, those who enter. And yet he goes through the many different things, and we find quite few of those things he describes about the places, some of the places in hell that we find it in Spirit's books, in the literature. So you see his knowledge that comes through writers and everything. But he does come out of it, and we do as well. We have our own hell, things that we cannot forgive ourselves, and I think those are the ones who will keep us in sad places, in dark places, is what we cannot forgive in ourselves. So I think, as I said before, I think this knowledge that we have from this book, Heaven and Hell, and from the Spirit's book, and from the literature, the Spiritist literature altogether, is that we need to learn to live well, to have a good life, because wherever we go, we just continue on into the next spiritual life as we return home, really. So I don't know what you like to say about it, because there's so much to say on this subject.
It is a lot. It is a lot to say. And you, Munir?
Yes, I like the comparison to bills, and developing a little bit on that. If we all go to the same restaurant, have the same meal, certainly what we are going to pay is the same, but we shouldn't forget that each one of us will carry our personal vouchers, which will give us different discounts. So in the end, our bills will be different because of vouchers to get discounts. And that is clear in chapter 5 of part 2 of Heaven and Hell, when we talk about, the accounts of suicidals. They come and they tell us, and then we can't say, oh, they committed suicide, they're going to suffer the same thing. Each case is a case. It's totally different sometimes from what we expect. And it's, all aspects of life, the consequences will be different, because the reasons why we made that mistake, or is different. We are at different levels, sometimes from out of ignorance, sometimes out of lack of energy to do differently. We've been doing that for so many incarnations. We just tend to repeat the same thing. So each case is a case. And as has been mentioned here, autonomy, we have our history and we have our actions today, what we do today, and the consequences will be in accordance to everything that we've gone through so far. So these idea of bills, the bill is the same, but the discount will be different in the end according to our efforts.
And we have more money in a bank, isn't it? Some of us have more money in a bank. We've done better things than others.
Our personal effort, the reasons that led us to make the same mistakes. Some people, they commit suicide out of despair, and some other people out of what would I say, beliefs. They don't believe in God or anything. It's interesting that at the very beginning of Heaven and Hell, Kardec gives an example. Imagine if a population was told that they would all die, be wiped out completely in 10 days. Would they, if they don't believe in survival, how would they behave? Would they carry on studying, developing, doing good, or would they just enjoy life to the maximum and forget others, forget all the moral principles that they were raised with? So he gives this example. So the perspective of survival and the accounts that we have from those who show us the consequences of what we do today, and when we return to spirit. And as I mentioned, Silvia, today we have the opportunity to act so that when we return to spirit, we return in a different condition. Because some people say, okay, now I wait to be happy when I die. I'll go to heaven, or I'll go to a nice place, Well, waiting is a waste of time, We should do something, because how we are going to find ourselves there depends very much on how we do here. We are studying this book, Heaven and Hell, in the group at the Spiritist Center for Peace, Wednesdays, 12 noon. And what we studied today was someone who spent her life not doing anything useful for herself and for other people. Didn't take care of her husband, her family, didn't have a profession. She just looked for enjoyment. And so in the end, she found herself in a terrible situation, because boredom was all that she could feel, boredom. And so we see that whatever we do and how we face things today will tell us, how our situation will be in the future in the spirit world. And the amazing thing is that in each example in this book, we find something that appeals to us. Say, well, I'm not that selfish, but a little bit of selfishness. Look what happens, And the other one, being a bit lazy, postponing things. And so we see, what actually, could be for our advantage today in terms of changing. Now that we still have time, now that we are still, on course. Otherwise, we suffer the consequences and we have to wait to come back to, carry on developing.
Correct. Yes.
Everything judged by its own merit, isn't it?
Yes. Well,
I think you made a point there, and I think Charles talked about a little bit before as well. I think that is very important, the situation about suicide, because is something that it is not a good thing for the person to do in relation to their own spirit and what happened. But each case is a different case. God knows the reason why the person did. They have responsibility, yes, because ultimately, they made the choice. But I think it's very important for us to understand that, you're going to be terribly punished. There's horrible things going to happen. Each case is judged by its own merit. And it's very, very important for us. Everything is going to be considered in relation to that person. So I know that sometimes people have experience of family members, who were unfortunate to have gone to this way. But be at peace, because things are judged very much by what the person is and everything. So just a little message, don't be distressed, or because everything is judged by the person and it's no merit in the situation. And there is one law for everybody. So it's important to recognize that. And this book, it really teaches us that, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's so important.
And we know, if I may add something, Silvia, in every single case, you could see the benefactors working invisibly. They were, most of the time invisible to those who were suffering, but they were there, working hard to bring about an opportunity to help that spirit, see, repent, make changes, and start moving. In all situations, all of them. They didn't know how they got there to the mediumship meeting, but we can see that, behind the scenes, the benefactors are there. None of them was just left to, abandon. They were always, helped to the point that, something could be done.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that the title of the book is Heaven and Hell, or Divine Justice, according to Spiritism.
Yeah,
You can
divine justice is
sometimes
more.
escape
Yes.
the human justice, but from the divine justice, nobody escapes.
No way.
And this
Yeah.
divine justice does not fail. It is infinitely just and fair. So that's also a very strong point of this book.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, it's already 10 o'clock.
Gosh, it goes really
Yeah,
quickly.
exactly. I didn't ask all my questions. No, yeah, it's
It
good.
is a good subject that, maybe at some other time we can go back again,
Yeah,
because,
that
if
would be
people
nice.
have questions, they like to ask questions and everything, would be nice. I think
Mhm.
it's important for us to go back to that again.
Yes, exactly. We can do it. We can do it. So let me share my screen here and give you the announcements. Okay, so next week it is the last book, and the book is Genesis. Then Assisi will be with us. The topic of next week it is Science and Spirit Creation, Miracles and Future of Humanity. So 3rd of May, 9 p.m. Also, in June, from 7th to 8th of June, we will have our 8th European Spiritist Gathering in Finland. So I encourage everyone to go there. We don't mind if you have a big group or a small group, or if you are interested in Spiritism teachings and what we discuss here. You have an opportunity to meet us face to face and also get to know more about Spiritism. We encourage you how to hold studies, how to form a group, how to share your experiences. So it's going to be good to have you all there and see beyond this screen here. Okay. So also in September we will have the International Spiritist Congress Joana de Angelis. This is going to be held in the UK. Silvia is one of the speakers or hosters. So it's going to be good to have all those people talking about Jonas.
Be good. You should come. It's your
Yeah.
special place today.
Yeah. So if you want to be sync with the Spiritism news in English, I invite you to go to Spiritist Institute and go to Spiritist Radar, add your email and subscribe. It's free of charge, so you will receive news about the Spiritism. For our young people here, every Thursday from 6:45 to 7:45 p.m. There is a young people talking about Spiritism online. Everyone is more than welcome. In order to get the link to join it, you need to send an email to contact@solidarityspiritist.org.uk. Buzz has just released the new newsletter. Be in touch, and also our Spiritism magazine, free of charge. Our friends from the US already published the new magazine. Okay, this is it from me, Munir. Always a pleasure to have you here.
Likewise, thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Charles, Silvia.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone. God bless. And go and read the book. You can download it for free.
Yeah, Realia, thank you for joining us.
And you can send it to your Kindle if you want. There is a way of doing it. You convert your PDF into Kindle. So, you can read anytime you want.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye. See you.
And God bless. Bye, everyone.